Today we're going to talk about a particular pastime from the Srimad Bhagavatam where Narada Muni is visiting Krishna's palaces. Krishna had married 16,000 odd wives and he had a palace for each of his wives. So Narada Muni decides to visit. So here the most significant notable point is that Narad Muni was completely bewildered when he saw Krishna in his palaces. So Srila Prabhupada just gives us a very small hint. He says that Narad Muni was never, could never have been bewildered by seeing multiple expansions of Krishna, because he's seen these kind of expansions continuously happening over in relation with the yogis. He himself is a yogi and he can easily expand himself into multiple forms. So technically it should not have been bewildering to Narada Muni when he saw these various expansions of Krishna. So Prabhupada says that, but then Prabhupada adds a line, and that's the only information we have about the bewilderment of Narada Muni. Srila Prabhupada states that in the case of the material yogis, the person is the same. The expansions are simply different manifestations of the person, but the person remains the same. Whereas in the case of Krishna, each person was a separate individual. Now this looks like, for many people, we might just skip over this statement and say that, okay, separate individual, fine. So sometimes there was speculation among devotees. They were saying that probably it simply means that when a yogi raises his hand, then all his manifestations also raise their hands. but Srila Prabhupada states that the yogi can manifest himself in various ways. That means it's not necessary that the yogi, when he raises his hand, all his expansions will also raise their hands simultaneously. That is not what Prabhupada means. What Prabhupada essentially means is he is the same person, although he may act in different ways, like, when Kardama Muni has done that, Shaubari Muni has done that. So he has expanded himself into different forms with different wives, naturally. But the person remains the same. In a sense, he could have, talked in a different way to his wife, spoken, acted in different ways, each of his expansions, but it was the same person. He was not a separate individual. So that's what Srila Prabhupada says. So what does that mean? So the repercussions are really, really quite deep actually in this. So the implications, in fact, are really deep. So a point to be noted here is that whenever a devotee of the Lord is bewildered by the Lord's actions, then we have to understand that there is a very, very significant and powerful feature of the Lord that is revealed in that particular pastime. Like when we see that Lord Brahma was bewildered, and we have a separate video on that, we won't touch on that topic right now. But when Lord Brahma was bewildered, when he saw that Krishna is actually a child, he's not acting like he's like a child, like a child, he's actually a child. So that really bewildered him. So this aspect of Krishna, that he's originally a child actually, and he thinks like a child, his heart is as simple as a child. The simplicity of Krishna bewildered Brahma, not the complexity. So that was one of the revelatory truths that was, like, you can say, Param Guhya, or it was something very confidential, even for devotees. Now we see the acharyas also don't completely reveal the truths. They just put it right in front of your face, but they will paraphrase it in such a way that a devotee, if he is not really into it, he could probably just skip it. And when Krishna wants, only then the devotee can actually see what Prabhupada is saying. Like Prabhupada says, Vishnu is simply an expansion of Krishna. He is just like, when Krishna goes to office, imagine a person is going to office, okay? And in the office he acts very officially and he behaves in a very official manner. Then he comes home, and when he sees his kid, he's playing with his kid. And he becomes a horse and the kid is riding on him. So then that's a real feature of Krishna, how he's at home. So Krishna means how that person or the individual acts in his house, and And Vishnu means how he acts in his office. So we have heard this metaphoric example many times. But the thing that is missing, that thing that is like slightly hidden, or it's not fully revealed, is that in this example the person is already a mature person. In the office he behaves in a mature way, okay, in a little impersonal way, in a little bit, but he is a mature person. His basic disposition is that of a mature man. But when he goes to his house, he behaves with his kids in a very informal way, not in a, but still it's to please his kids. He's not like, playing like a horse because he himself is a kid. It is not like that. He's behaving like a kid to please his children. That's what the understanding of Vaikuntavasis were also there. In the spiritual world, the Vaikuntavasis thought that when he went down, Vishnu behaved like a kid to please his pure devotees. So he behaved like in a very small childish way. But he is a mature guy. So that is, even a devotee's understanding is like that only, generally, what we understand. But the missing point is, it is not, so the example, Prabhupada is revealing everything, but the example that he chooses is kind of a equivocal kind of a tone. Like, Prabhupada uses that tone in which both parties can be satisfied. The party which states that Krishna is actually a mature guy who is acting like a kid, and the party which states that Krishna is actually a kid who is acting like a mature guy. So in this verse, Narayanas tvam nahi sarvadehi nam atma asya dhisya akhila lokha sakshi narayano angam narabhujalayana tatchapi satyam na tava eva maya. This is like we have taken a separate video on that. It's like highly confidential subject matter, in which Brahmaji was bewildered, and he understands that Krishna is actually a kid. Vishnu is Maya. The maturity of Vishnu is Maya. That is the reason why the reality is that Vishnu is coming from a kid. So basically, it is a kid who is under Yogamaya behaving like he's a mature Vishnu. But actually, Vishnu is not a mature person. He's actually a kid at heart. So we have also discussed this topic because, why is the Samudra Manthan topic explained at such an advanced stage of the Srimad Bhagavatam, almost 8th canto, nearing the 10th canto, where the most confidential subject matters are going to be discussed. Because this reveals, this Samudra Manthan reveals an aspect of Krishna that is very bewildering, like that he's a little kid. So he's lying on the milk ocean. Why? Because he likes milk, he's a kid. He's behaving like a very mature guy, and then when all the GPCs come for huge meeting, there's a political meeting, and the demigods, demons, everybody's, all of them are like there for discussion on a big worldwide scale. And then Krishna is not even listening to them, and after the whole thing the entire problems have been stated. Then they ask Krishna for solution, and he's thinking of churning butter, how his mother Yashoda is churning butter. So he tells them, let's what's the solution? So he tells, okay, the solution is let's just go and churn some butter. And then he takes Vasuki and he says, I'll wrap you around this and we'll churn the butter and things like that. So point is that that's a completely kiddish mentality. I mean, if you see that. So basically then that's a revelatory statement, pastime, where you understand that actually Vishnu is also kid at heart. So basically in this example of Srila Prabhupada, where the guy is a mature guy, he goes to office, behaves in an informal way, then comes back to his house and he behaves like a kid just to please his kids. Here we have to change the metaphor slightly because it's confidential. Srila Prabhupada is not going to reveal directly to everybody. So the point is, he is never a mature guy. He is a small 5-year-old kid only. So in his house, he is like playing and throwing cakes on his mama, on Yashoda Maya, stealing butter. He is doing all those things. That is his real nature. That is who Krishna is. Then he goes to office and he dons the suit of a mature official guy. And there is no official guy. It's a kid only who is going to office. So here in that example, there is an official guy who is already grown up and he's going to office, and then he comes home and he behaves like a kid to please his kids. But here there is no kids, nothing. This guy himself is as a kid in this new metaphor. And he is actually behaving like a mature guy. That is bewildering to even devotees. If I tell you that, the whole controller of all the 3 universes and 100 unlimited universes is actually a kid, and he is just like, but a makhan chor, and he is really not too much into, managing things. He's just like, completely ecstatic, and he does all these things, and he is the one who's controlling Vishnu. Vishnu itself is a kid. Then that will be bewildering not only to Brahmaji, but that aspect of Lord will be bewildering to even devotees who are thinking that Krishna is doing everything in a very orchestrated, he's kind of orchestrating things in a very systematic way so that the devotee becomes pure. If I tell no, he's just he's a capricious small little child who just wants to enjoy everything, and he does anything to anybody. That will become a problematic situation unless you're a pakka devotee and you have experienced these kind of pastimes with Lord Jagannath and things like that. What he does to you. So the point here was, when we see that Brahma or a pure devotee is bewildered, muyanti yat surayaha, when a pure devotee is bewildered, that means an aspect of Krishna is being revealed here, if you pay attention. A very, very secret aspect of Krishna is being revealed. Indirectly, not very directly. So even the acharyas in that verse are trying to cover up that up, Jiva Goswami and Baldev Vidya Bhushana, because it's a secret, it's not supposed to be revealed. So Sridhar Swami kind of opens it up, but they say Sridhar Swami is just trying to please the Mayavadis and things like that. So that verse they try to hide it up, because the controversy means verse. That means this verse is very important. And the devotee should look into that verse. So next bewildering pastime that we can see of is Kunti Maharani being bewildered. That reveals another aspect of Krishna. That Krishna is actually, he goes into his pastimes and he is just like he gets afraid. So she says, the very fact that fear personified is afraid of Krishna, but Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda, that is bewildering to me. So now if Krishna were to be acting, if he was not a child, he was actually, a mature person who's acting like a child to please his devotees, just like playing with his devotees like a horse, like a father plays the role of a horse for his small little kid. If that's what he was doing, then he wouldn't actually be afraid of Mother Yashoda. Just to please Mother Yashoda, he would be like acting like a child. But that is not the case. Many of our acharyas also say, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur included, that Krishna actually was afraid of Mother Yashoda. Transcendently, of course, not like he was, his fear is, of course, beyond the 3 modes. Janma, Shar, Karma, Chame, Divyam. So, but he was actually running away. He was actually doing that. And he was actually enjoying stealing butter and getting afraid. That was bewildering. How can Krishna behave like this? Is he actually a child, or what is he actually? So that part again reveals that Krishna is actually a child who is behaving like he is a mature boy. And then there is a statement from Rig Veda also, Narayana Samhita, which is quoted by Madhvacharya in his Vedanta Sutra commentaries, and then Jiva Goswami in his Kadama Sandarbha for Na Vidyate Esecha Janma Karma Va Gajendra Spreyas Vala part ka verse. So, and that verse states, Shrishti Adikam Harir Naya Eva Prayojana Apekshatu Kurute Kevalanandat Yatha Mattasya Nartanam Purnanandasya Tasya Prayojana Matikuta Muktapya Apta Kamasyu Kimuthasya. So here it says Shrishti Adi, everything come Harir Na Eva Prayojana Apeksha. He doesn't do anything for any kind of purpose. So we have discussed this before also. So we'll not go into this. So there is no purpose. He's just enjoying things like that. Everything. There is no purpose. Like it's not like, he wants to preach to all the living entities, taking them back to Godhead. So he's done all these things. He just wants to enjoy things. That's why he's doing things. He's just like, that's how he deals with devotees. If there is a pakka devotee if any devotee has dealings with the deities, specifically Jagannath deities, they are highly ecstatic. So you can actually understand Krishna. When Krishna is highly ecstatic, he is highly vulnerable also. His facade actually is completely down when he is highly ecstatic. So with Jagannath, if you have Jagannath deities in your house, you'll come to know how he behaves exactly like a child. He's not acting like a child. He's actually like a child. He wants chappan bhog, he wants to eat prasad, he wants to do this, he wants to do mischief. No matter how good you are, he will do some mischief with you all the time. His nature is to do mischief. So such kind of things you will understand that he's actually a child. He's like literally like a child. You have to chastise him so many times. So from this we can understand very clearly that Kunti's bewilderment shows the reveals the fact that Krishna is actually a child. And Brahma's bewilderment also reveals that same thing. that he is a child. So now we'll come to Narada's bewilderment. Lord Narada Muni, his divine grace, Narada Muni's bewilderment. What aspect of Krishna does that reveal? So, Prabhupada's, kind of sutric statements, it's like a sutra, that in the case of the material yogi, although they can act in different ways, they are still the same person. It's the expansions are simply manifestations. Whereas in the case of Krishna, each expansion is a separate individual. So, what does this mean? You can easily overlook this and you can simply say, okay, that's something Krishna may be having more powers, or he may be having more. So what does it mean? Separate individual and not so first thing, Prabhupada very clearly states that yogis can act in various ways through his expansion. That means it doesn't mean that when the yogi raises his hand, all the expansions will raise. No, they can act individually, separately with every different people. That's the power of expansions. Yogis can do that. But they are the same person. They are not different people. What does this mean? This reveals an aspect of Krishna that is so very secret and extremely esoteric in nature. So that is why Narada gets bewildered. A pure devotee of the level of Narada, who's a Mahabhagavat, who's like the Acharya of Acharyas, Acharya of the entire Vyasadev, he's Acharya of Vyasadev. What can be said of him? Every single pastime of Bhagavatam has him somewhere, He's there in the Vedas, Upanishads, everywhere. He knows Krishna like no other person knows him. He's not into a pastime. He knows Krishna through manifestations and things like that. And he gets bewildered. Something is definitely there in this pastime. What is that? Pastime is that, imagine, let's say, how could Narada Muni be bewildered? What was Narada Muni expecting when he went to this house? He thought that, okay, Krishna has expanded into multiple forms, so I'll meet each and every form, let's see what happens. So he goes to the first house, and there he sees Krishna is playing with this kid. And then Krishna probably, met him and said, Hari bol Narada Muni, how are you? So Narada Muni says, I'm fine, everything, how things going on? Then why don't you have prasad and everything? Okay, I'll have prasad. And then probably they bid farewell to each other, and then Narada Muni moves on to the next room. Now Narada Muni thinks that, Krishna, he was there in that room and met him, so I'll just meet him here also. Probably he's in a different circumstances, but he'll know that we just met. And Narada Muni probably goes to the next room, and there Krishna says, oh, Hari bol Narada Muni. He's now probably, sitting with his wife or doing something, like some other activity. And then Narada Muni looks at him and Hari bol Krishna. And Krishna says, Hari bol Narada Muni, it's been a long time since we met, almost 3 months. And Narada Muni must have been totally bewildered, now how is that possible? I just met you five minutes ago. And Krishna is whom did you meet? I met that, your expansion, left side, that room number 503, I met him. So, that guy, see that expansion, you don't go to that expansion too much, okay? You be with me, okay? Fine. You should always be with me. That guy is little bit, I don't like that guy. And Narada Muni is he is you. What are you talking about? He is me, but he's my expansion. I know, so what? So then Narada Muni starts thinking, what's going on? This kid actually bewildered Narada Muni. Krishna has no idea what she's doing in the other room. Krishna is completely different person there. And in this room, he's a completely different person. And Narada Muni is what is going on here? You are the same person in both the rooms. How can you be a separate individual? Prabhupada is saying, separate individual. And Krishna is that guy is not, he has got his own problems. That expansion of mine is time pass. You come to me, Narada Muni. Don't go to other people. You should stay with me only. And you should have my association all the time. Arey, what are you saying? These expansions, they're supposed to be the same person, right? You are the same guy. So, if Krishna were to be acting, how Kunti got bewildered, how Brahmaji got bewildered, if Krishna was supposed to be acting, had he been acting in this circumstance, then Narada Muni would not have been bewildered. Just seeing Krishna act in different ways, killing Putana or doing some, multiple activities in multiple places, that would not have bewildered Narada Muni. Only when Narada Muni understood that Krishna is considering himself to be a separate individual when he expands, that he could be totally bewildering to Narada Muni. And that would be like, Krishna doesn't even remember what's happening in the other, kind of expansion in his other thing. And he's completely behaving in like a completely different person, doing completely different activities. And he even refers to his own, he can even talk to his own expansions, like as if they are a different person. This would be totally bewildering. Like, how can Krishna? So in the material world, as we have discussed before, there is a syndrome. Of course, everything comes from the spiritual world. Negatives, positives, everything in the material world. So here it's a negative trait, but in the spiritual world, everything is positive. Like sex life is a horrible thing in the material world. Spiritual world is a good thing. Anger, killing, fighting, beating, these things in the material world are painful. But in the spiritual world, they are full of bliss. Because spiritual world doesn't have the inabilities and all the negativities of the material world. So there is no dichotomy, there is no good, evil, bad, everything is great there. So in the material world, there is something known as dissociative personality syndrome, or what we call it multiple personality syndrome, where a person assumes multiple personalities and he forgets what he's doing in the other personality. This is something that is observed in the material world itself. They have said that in some Western countries, there is a person who assumes almost 12 to 20 personalities, and he doesn't remember anything about the other personality. He knows that there is some other person also. He goes to a psychiatrist and he talks to them, but he has no idea that in the morning he has become some other person. The classical example is Dr. Hyde and Jekyll. That was the 18th century or 19th century novel, where a person forgets. In the night he becomes somebody else, in the morning he becomes somebody else. In the same body, of course. But in Krishna's case, Krishna can expand. So what do you mean by expansions? So we have discussed this again in detail from teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That means when Krishna changes his emotions, his forms are known as Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Why is it Satchit Ananda Vigraha? It should be Sat Vigraha. Sat means body. Krishna's body or Brahman is the cause of all manifestations, material, spiritual, him in his own body, and also the body of the Jivatmas, and in a perverted way, material world also, and spiritual world in the pure way. Everything comes from Brahman. That is Sat Shakti of Lord Krishna. Chit is his cognitive potency by which life is coming, and Ananda is his potency for emotions. So why is the form known as Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha? Why not Sat Vigraha? Because form is made from Sat or physicality. Where does the mental aspect and the emotional aspect come in the creation of the forms? Now we understand, if you go deeper, we have discussed this before, that the forms are created through his emotions. Emotions are the primary driving force from which forms are manifested. These emotions are eternally there, therefore forms are eternally there. Now sometimes these forms can be created apparently, and then they can become eternal, because time does not exist for Krishna. Like for example, Jagannath ka pastime. At some point Jagannath didn't do that pastime. Imagine. And then Jagannath does that pastime in which his form has been changed from Krishna's form. It has become the form of Lord Jagannath. Because Jagannath likes this pastime so much, that form is so eternal now. So Krishna simply goes and says that Yogamaya, please make this an eternal pastime. So Yogamaya deletes the files and rewinds the files and then creates a looping structure in the universal timeline. And because time does not exist and time does not have any binding factor on Krishna, he can manipulate time as he wants. That becomes eternal. That pastime becomes in a loop sequence. Yogamaya loops that pastime, going back into the past. And that pastime becomes completely eternal forever. So if you go back into the past, you'll always find like a mirror image. You'll keep on finding that pastime happening again and again and again. There's no end to that pastime. So, and that point where it was introduced is completely now deleted. So there is no introduction point. So that becomes eternal, actually, in that sense. So Krishna can manipulate time in that sense. Like, he can create something. If he likes something, then he can change the past. And then that past becomes future, like, whatever he wants. So it doesn't mean that time doesn't exist, but time simply facilitates his pastimes, his leelas. So if he likes a particular form, particular pastime, and these forms are unlimitedly changing, all the time they are changing. When Krishna looks at a gopi, he becomes more beautiful, then the gopi becomes more beautiful, then Krishna becomes even more beautiful, then gopi becomes even more beautiful. Nava, 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 nava. Every time new things are happening actually. And those new forms are created and they become eternal again and again and again. Because those forms, once they're created, they become eternal. They can go back, they can loop back. Anything can happen. So Krishna's own particular. Now we are part and parcel of Krishna. That is completely eternally. There is no way in which we were created or something like. We were eternally existing in Krishna. But Krishna's forms, they can be, he can create just expansions like whatever he wants. Like in the gopis, he can just create multiple forms just by his emotions. And those forms can dance with the gopis, and again he can become one form, just like in the Narada Muni's case. So here the eternality is slightly different in relation to Krishna. So there are certain truths that cannot change, and then certain truths which are based on rasa or Krishna's desires. The truth that cannot change is Krishna is that's the truth, one line. That's the only thing that is truth. The knowledge is only one line actually, Gayatri Mantra. Now we will not reveal the secrets of the Gayatri Mantras, but the Gayatri Mantra is like Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita. They're all Gayatri Mantras actually. They've got everything. They're actually 3 shlokas. They're not. Gayatri Mantra has 3 parts. Similarly, Chaturshloki has 3 parts, and the 4th part is simply a kind of Falashruti. So if you see the Brahma Samhita, that is also Gayatri. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So that is a kind of Gayatri. So we are all parts of this Krishna's eternal parts of Krishna. Krishna is the source of us. Like he is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. He is Sandhini Samvit Ladini's source. Krishna, and we are the products. Ishvara Karana Upadhi, Ishvara Karya Upadhi, Jiva. That is the only thing. Upadhi is the surrounding factors that define your defining characteristics are also known as upadhis, and it is defining character of Ishvara is that he is the source and we are the products, and that is eternal relation that cannot change. We are eternally Krishna's product. We were not created at some point of time, never. Na jayate mriyate, soul does not exist, has not existed, and will not exist. That is eternal. Similarly, Sandhini Samvit Ladini, these are Shaktis of Krishna eternally in an achintya bheda bhed tattva with Krishna. They have not been created, nothing like that. That is the part of the Gayatri that does not change. Everything else, Krishna's own personal expansions, his leelas, all of these things can change. The material world, the size of the material world, the laws governing the material world, spiritual worlds, its leelas, every other thing. Generally, Krishna doesn't change that, but if he wants, he can change all those things. Past, present, future. Nothing is like, what Krishna doesn't want to. He can change anything and everything. Krishna can do that. So that part, Krishna has unlimited powers to change past, present, future. So similarly, when we say Krishna's form is made from Sat Chit Ananda, when Krishna's Ananda changes or emotion changes, what happens? When his emotion changes, then his mind changes, the way he thinks changes. And when the way he thinks changes, his body changes, Krishna's. So his body is not just his physical aspect, but also, because Brahman is everywhere. Krishna can, achintya bheda bhed, he can create matter into spirit, spirit into matter, Prabhupada says. Any place he can manifest anything, like Narasimha manifesting a pillar. Because the mood was invoked, he can turn Brahman into any form. And he can manifest to that form, because he is already existing in that form. Krishna. Every atom Krishna is existing. That is Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says, when a devotee sees Krishna in every single atom, his Ishta Devata, then he is actually that is the highest confidential subject matter. So Prabhupada says that. So he can transform. So the point here is that what is happening here? The thing that is happening is that Krishna, when he manifests himself in different forms, he considers himself to be a completely different person. Prabhupada says the thinking of Krishna is known as his pastimes, and then Vaibhava, Vilasa and Vaibhava, Prakasha, these forms are pastime forms. Basically, thinking of Krishna has changed. So therefore, his form has changed. Like now, the glaring example of this phenomena is Balramji. Okay, Balramji. Who is Balramji? He's Krishna himself. When you say expansion, we think expansion means Krishna has expanded, means some other person has come there. There is no other person here. There is no other person. There is Krishna only. Just under his Yogamaya, Krishna undergoing Yogamaya and forgetting that he's Krishna and assuming a new role. That becomes a new expansion. So Balram is not, expansion doesn't mean he's a different person. No, he's not Krishna, he's something else. Because we see him like that and he also sees himself like that. So we always think that he's a different person. He's not a different person. We have to understand that Balramji is Krishna himself. Directly Krishna. First expansion means he's Krishna himself. Then Lord Ram comes, then Varahadev, Narsimadev, then Vishnu, everybody. So first expansion, the Prakasha expansion of Krishna, Vaibhava Prakasha is Balramji. Past time thinking he has changed and he becomes Balram. Because his thinking has changed, his emotions have changed, of course. So his thinking has changed, and because his thinking has changed, his body has become white. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya, what is it? It's Krishna himself, direct Krishna. But his emotions have changed. The emotions of Srimati Radharani. His thinking has changed and his body has become golden. Exact opposite. Black to golden. Black to white. Things like that. So all these expansions of Krishna, what is happening is, they are thinking themselves to be different person. So Prabhupada says the original Krishna Swayam Rupa is he's thinking himself to be a coward boy of thinking. This is the key point here. His emotions have changed. Ladini Shakti has changed. And because of that his Samvit Shakti has changed. And because of that his Sandhini Shakti, which is his body, has changed. So now what is happening is, there's a big thing that is happening. Now if you tell Balramji, oh, can you dance with Krishna's gopis? He'll slap you. Genuinely slap you, not like he's acting. Oh, I'm Krishna only. So I'll slap him so that, I just want to show him that I'm Balram. No, not like that. He's genuinely getting angry. How can you think like that? They are like my daughters. How can you think like that? I'll slap the hell out of you. He'll think like that. He had an elderly relation with those gopis. Of course, Krishna being the first original expansion, he can dance with Balramji's gopis, he can dance with anybody's gopis, no problem. Lakshmiji is Vishnu. Vishnu is a still tertiary example, So Vishnu cannot approach Radharani under any circumstance. But Lakshmi can approach Krishna for Ras Leela. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains. Whom does he explain this? Vallabh Bhatta or Gopal Bhatta, I think. He explains this to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. No, I think Vallabh Bhatta he is discussing this with in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says your Lakshmi was like, Gopal Bhatta's father, I think. I'm not sure. So he's discussing this. That how come your Lakshmiji is coming after our Krishna? She left Vishnu and she wants to enter Ras Leela. And Krishna is accepting her also actually. But then he has just placed some mischief with her. But the point is that is possible because from point of view of Krishna, everything is possible. All rasas are compatible. From the lower expansion, he cannot approach the Shaktis of higher expansion. Things like that. So the point here again is that very clear that when Krishna is expanding as Balram, he thinks himself to be a completely different person. And there is a Yogamaic verse, Tava Eva Maya, when Brahmaji is saying Tava Eva Maya, that refers to Vishnu being Maya, a product of Maya, means that even Vishnu or Balramji is under Maya. They are thinking themselves to be different than Krishna, under Yoga Maya, for expansion, for pleasure. They are doing that. That's why you see in the, I think 11th canto, where Arjuna, Vishnu steals the kids of a Brahmana, and Arjuna and Krishna go to meet Vishnu, and Vishnu says, I wanted to meet Krishna since a long time. Who is Vishnu? Vishnu is Krishna himself, right? So what is he saying? I wanted to meet you since a long time. And so these kind of pastimes, we can understand how Narada Muni was bewildered. Why he was bewildered? Because when Krishna expands, he is actually thinking himself to be a different person. Genuinely. Just like genuinely Damodar is afraid of Yashoda. Genuinely Krishna is acting like a kid in front of Brahmaji. It's not that Krishna was acting. He was actually a kid. So the point here is that when you understand these pastimes, you understand the deeper ramifications of the Shastras, the Shastric conclusions. They're very powerful actually. I mean, if you understand Krishna's nature, Krishna's mind, the way he thinks, then you will get more and more and more, bewildered actually, and in a nice way. Like you'll totally like kind of feel, wow, this is the truth. This is like really extraordinary. So when Krishna expands, he goes into that complete yogamaic trance, and he's like completely thinking himself to a different person. He's not thinking himself to be the same person. And now we can see this more explained in a more elaborate way in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita postgraduate study. So all these pastimes of Chaitanya Charitamrita, they are highly advanced topics. When you see the tattvic implications of those pastimes have got extraordinary, they are extraordinarily revelatory in nature. Chaitanya Charitamrita, although they look like very simple pastimes, they're not simple pastimes. Like for example, Haridas Thakur, he's getting beaten in 22 marketplaces, and you see that that pastime reveals a very deep aspect of Krishna and pure devotees. That pure devotees can never be affected by pain in the material realm. Krishna is beyond Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Krishna and his pure devotees are beyond the effects of Maya. So you can see that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "Oh, I covered you. You were never beaten." And actually, he genuinely thought that he was being beaten, but he was never being beaten. Pure devotee never suffers. So this is one of the aspects that was revealed in. And similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was arguing with some of his people, and he suddenly changes his stance and he takes the Viruddha view and defeats the other person. Then he again changes his stand and takes the Purna Paksha and Purva Paksha and things like that. And then he defeats. So what does that pastime reveal? It reveals that Krishna is the absolute truth. Whatever he wants to be true, that becomes truth. So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing is not just displaying his prowess as a good debater. No, that was not the thing. He was changing the truths itself when he was discussing with those people. When he said, no, the truth is this. Then Yogamaya goes in the past, she changes everything. So the truth changes when Krishna wants something to happen. So that power of Krishna, beyond time, beyond what natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, whatever he wants becomes the truth. That aspect is revealed in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's debating skills. So these kind of things, when you go deeper into the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, each and every pastime will be revealing an extraordinary aspect of the Supreme Lord. And the biggest aspect is when the incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tyaktva Sudusteja Surepsita Rajya Lakshmi. How is he, completely come in the role of a devotee and forgotten everything? He is like dancing and going mad after Krishna. Isn't this bewildering? Krishna himself going madly after Krishna. It's not that he is acting to teach the living entities devotion. That is his secondary role. His primary thing is he's actually thinking that he's a devotee of Krishna. And suddenly he changes his mood in Mahaprakash Leela, suddenly reveals everything. Suddenly he goes into that again mood. Because he's an ecstatic personality, he keeps on changing his moods like anything. And he forgets and he goes into ecstasy, he faints. So all these things are like highly bewildering if you go deeper into these topics. They're highly bewildering because you will see the nature of Krishna. Right? When he's in ecstasy, you can understand how does he behave, what is his true nature. When he's intoxicated, then you know his true nature. So each and every pastime, if we understand, if we go deeper into the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, each pastime will reveal an extraordinary aspect of Krishna's. Just like Makhan Chori pastime reveals that Damodar is actually afraid of Yashoda. So these pastimes of Krishna, Leelas, they have got such tattvas that when you understand them in the proper spirit, in a proper deep way, then you will really get shocked. Oh my God, this is the truth. So Balramji, if you see, he's right there in front of you and he is completely a different person. Vishnu is completely behaving in a different fashion. Now, so in Chaitanya Charitamrita, so we'll come back to that. There's a pastime where Sakshi Gopal is fighting with Jagannath. Now, who is Sakshi Gopal and Jagannath? They're the same people. It's Krishna. So, if they're the same person, then how are they fighting? Jagannath is saying, Sakshi Gopal is eating my prasad. He's like, take him out. That useless fellow. He's talking to himself. Just like there is a pastime in the Damodar Leela where Krishna is looking at a mirror and he's talking to his own mirror and he's actually talking like as if he's a different person. And it happens like that only. Oh, don't, oh, sorry that you saw my hand in the butter. Don't tell Mother Yashoda, I'll give you some butter and stuff like that. So Mother Yashoda is laughing behind him. But do you think that he's like, doing an acting? Sitting there? Oh, I'll give pleasure to Mother Yashoda, so I'll act. Mother Yashoda is there to give pleasure to Krishna. Not Krishna is not there to give pleasure to Mother Yashoda. Although Krishna enjoys her this thing. But it's not acting. It's genuine. Krishna is genuinely talking to his reflection. He considers himself a different person. This is how Sakshi Gopal talks with Jagannath. This is how in Mayapur, Rajapur area, Jagannath was fighting with the Shaligram Shilas. Even before you chant the mantras, they are eating the prasad. This is not fair. Take them out. Get out. Don't stay with us. They were throwing Shaligrams, who are Krishna themselves, out. Jagannath was having a fight with the Shaligrams. Prem Kolahal. So, these highly confidential aspects of Krishna, how he is like a child, how he is like completely expands himself and he forgets that he is expansion, always the same person. So I call this original Mayavad. Mayavad, what is Mayavad? Mayavad says that although we are all Brahman, we have forgotten that we are Brahman, and under illusion of Maya, we are thinking ourselves to be different people. Individuality is created by Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna effect of Maya. So we are not actually same person, that is same entity, Brahman. But this is Mayavad. When it's applied to the living entity, when it is applied to Krishna, it is not Mayavad, it is the truth. So Shankaracharya copied the original Mayavadic truth from the spiritual realm and applied it in a wrong way. And that wrong application gave rise to Mayavad. For example, Lord Shiva copied it from the spiritual world. He is a Gopishwar Mahadev. He knows how Krishna behaves. So Krishna in the spiritual world, he considers himself to be different people. I am Balram, I am Krishna, I am Vishnu. That is Maya. That is simply Yoga Maya. It's the same person, All these are simply Yogamaic effects. He is Krishna. That's the truth. But he's thinking, no, I am Vishnu, I am Brahma. Similarly, so that thing was copied, this concept. So that is original Maya. That is a beautiful Mayavad actually. Of course, the Jivatma and Krishna are eternally different. There is no doubt about it. There is no transformation. Like Krishna is transformed to Balram. There is no transformation in the terms of, it's not that Balram becomes a Jivatma later on, thinking himself under Maya, he becomes a Jivatma. Krishna under Maya thinks himself to Balram. So Balram under Maya thinks himself to Jivatma. That is transformative theory, Parinamvad of Mayavad. That is highly dangerous. We are not advocating that. Because Jivatma and Krishna are eternally different. They are completely different entities. But Krishna and Krishna are not different entities. That is Mayavad, actually, spiritual Mayavad. Krishna and Balram, there is no difference actually. This is simply an illusion that they are different. They are simply transformed. By thinking, willing, feeling, they have changed. That transformation is simply an illusion actually. Effects of Maya. But what Mayavadis say is a Jivatma is a transformation like that. Such kind of transformation has happened. Just Krishna expands to Balram, Balram expands to Jivatma by transformation. Which is highly dangerous because Jivatma is completely different from Krishna. Although it comes from Krishna's Sandhini Shakti, it comes from Krishna's Ladini Shakti and Samvit Shakti. But the individual Jiva is completely different from individual Krishna. There is a difference of individual. The individuals are not same. Even Shiva, when he transforms from Sadashiv is as an individual is same as Vishnu. But when Sadashiv transforms into Shambho or Lord Shiva, he is a different individual. And the transformation is eternal. There is no, just like Jivatma is eternally transformed. There is no thing with that. So that eternal transformation is actually a different person. So Achintya Bhedabhed. No, there is no Achintya Bhedabhed for Vishnu and Krishna. There cannot be no Achintya Bhedabhed because that's simply an illusion. There is no different people. They are the same people, the same person. Just like multiple candles. They are not like different aspects, different individuals. They are the same individual. One single individual under Yoga Maya thinks himself to be multiple for his own enjoyment. So this can be applied to Krishna. That's why Lord Shiva copied this from the Golok Vrindavan. Krishna's own aspect he copied and applied it wrongly to the Jivatma and Krishna, like that. And created the Mayavad theory. So Mayavad is not something new. It has been created from the Golok Vrindavan concepts only, actually, originally. So, but wrong application. They say, The snake is true, the rope is true, but the application or the illusion that the rope is to mistaken, that application is wrong, that you are thinking the rope to be the snake. That is wrong. Rope and snake are there. Similarly, the truth, Krishna himself, one person thinking himself to be multiple individuals, that is true for Krishna. But when you think that, apply that to from Krishna to Jivatma, that becomes Mayavad theory. That becomes horrible. But for Krishna, it's the same thing. Vishnu is the same as Krishna. Balram is same as Krishna. For Krishna, there is no... that's simply an illusion that Krishna thinks himself to be different purposes. So this was the topic that we discussed today. That Narada Muni, when he saw this, that Krishna actually considers himself genuinely to be a different individual, separate individual. And in fact, he can interact with those individuals. Like Balram is interacting with Krishna. Krishna, don't do this. How can you marry Subhadra to Arjuna? I want her to be married to Duryodhan. Or Nitai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who is Nitai? It's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. But then under a different mode. So that shows that Krishna is so this was our topic basically for today, that how different aspects of Krishna's tattva can be revealed through his various leelas if you pay attention. Hare Krishna.